Here's the snap. Looking right. Lobs it for Puka. End zone. Leaping catch. Got it! Puka Nacua! A 22-yard go-ahead touchdown!
Out there with him and just his joy, the excitement that he has playing this game.
I've seen a lot of Cooper tape and consuming more and more.
A little bit of him and you?
A little bit, definitely a different style, but I love being able to watch him. He has a plethora of things that he can do, so it makes it super nice to be able to learn from him.
Oh man, he's just the same Puka Nacua that he's been through these last 4 weeks, and put his head down and got back to work.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
What a weekend it was. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside maybe Jamar Chase, maybe Matthew Berry. Yeah, look at that release package.
Come on.
Jay Croucher, of course. Always steady.
Exactly. The key is here. Try to guard me. Try to guard me.
Press
the
coverage
key,
or off
yeah.
coverage.
Either way.
Yeah.
You gotta push. The key is the hands. Exactly.
Look at that.
No worries, please. I use my size and speed combo to get open.
Matthew did a rendition standing up before, which was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life.
To not get mic'd up.
Chase.
Please, come on.
I call him ones.
Yeah.
I call him ones.
To call me ones, I appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Listen,
hey,
well, give me the ball. Look, I'm open. Look at me. I'm always open. I'm always effing open. There we go. Yeah, honestly, like if Jamar and I walked into a bar, I don't think people could tell us apart.
Well, not with that jersey.
No, certainly not. Big day. Listen, Jamar Chase, monster day. When you think back on Week 5, George Kittle, DJ Moore. We're going to talk about all these. Like, I feel like if you didn't have a multi-touchdown scorer in your fantasy matchup, do you even play fantasy football?
You lost.
Right. You either lost or you either won big or lost big. I don't think there's that many.
Like Travis Etienne, massive day. There's a lot of massive days.
A lot of massive days.
Just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, 100%.
So we got a lot to get through. We will get to all the weekend warriors.
Yes.
And
Speaking of massive days.
Scaries.
Speaking of massive days, in Los Angeles, there were a few of them. See what I just did there?
That's what they call a tease.
That's what you call a segue. Yes. Connor Rogers, for the love of
the
God.
Rotoworld Player News. For all your Rotoworld Player News, go to NBCSports.com, of course. And here's the notable Week 5 injuries. Listen.
This is why you're a professional host, because I skipped over the injuries.
Yes.
I wanted to go right.
The one thing you were so passionate about in our pre-production meeting.
I know. Well, listen, and then stupid Steven showed.
There he goes.
Stupid Steven D'Agostino showed, Puka Nacua scoring a touchdown, and then I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to the LA game first.
Yes.
I guess he didn't want to roll video of. Anthony Richardson getting his AC joint sprained,
exactly.
Unfortunately.
Listen, we are going to cover all of the big-time injuries throughout the show while we go in-depth on the games. Anthony Richardson, yes, the AC joint injury. Daniel Jones, a neck injury similar to what he had 2 years ago. James Conner hurts his knee. Justin Jefferson with a hamstring. And Travis Kelce, although he came back with the ankle. We will get into all of these. But with that, let's jump right into the Eagles.
Also, Zay Jones. I was going to say in terms of smaller injuries. Zay Jones left the game as well. Tank Dell got a concussion. There's some smaller names as well.
Sneaky one that I didn't even realize. DeVonta Achane came out of the game. Little ankle sprain as well. Just want to monitor.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, plenty to go around.
With only one ankle, he might only run for 120 yards.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, right?
And one touchdown.
Right. We'd have to lower expectations for Achane on just one ankle.
Well, in positive injury news front, Cooper Kupp was back, and Cooper Kupp looked exactly like the Cooper Kupp we know and love. Catches 8 of 12 targets, 118 yards. But in even better news, Matthew, Puka Nacua doesn't go away.
Yeah, what is it? Puka Makana means no worries.
That's
right.
Or a lot of people have said.
Hakuna Nacua. I think maybe that's better. Hakuna Nacua. It means no worries, especially when you've got both these guys in your lineup. We said on Fantasy Football pregame, we said all last week, both guys are top 20 wide receivers. Both guys can be started. Both guys absolutely were. Both with double-digit targets. Both with an over 30% target share. Both with at least 7 receptions. Puka gets the touchdown. Kupp gets over 110 receiving yards, 118 in fact. I don't know that there's anything other than to say, like, if you have one or both these guys on your team, enjoy. They play the Cardinals next, then they're home to the Steelers. They're at Dallas. Okay, not a great matchup, although the Cowboys certainly looked vulnerable after last night. And then they're at Green Bay. But 3 of the next 4 are ones that you aren't worried about at all. And even the Dallas game, they're so good at scheming these guys open that I think it's It's really miraculous. Hopefully you didn't, quote-unquote, sell high on Puka because Kupp was coming back. Like, I think this is completely legitimate, guys.
Yep, I agree. And to me, the biggest stat out of this game is that Puka Nacua had 11 targets, and the Rams only had the ball for 22 minutes. They just couldn't get off the field. It must be so demoralizing playing the Eagles, because once you get into third and short, it's just over. Eagles converted 13 of 18 third downs. The brotherly shove was working to perfection. But Puka Nacua, 11 targets, 7 for 71
Let me ask you guys
touchdown.
this. You mentioned the brotherly shove. I brought this up on Twitter.
Is this the Reggie Bush
on
thing?
the X. Yeah, the Bush push.
Yeah.
Like, I called it the Bush push, and everyone's just like, Matthew, like I was saying something dirty. And make no mistake here,
saw
people.
that as well.
Yeah, make no mistake here, people. Like, I have no problem saying dirty things.
Right.
I think as this show is evidence as well. The fact that I
want it to land.
I left Disney, you know what I mean? Just so I could, live my own free life. But I'm just saying, that was not intended to be dirty at all. Like, were you guys like confused by that? Because it's like, again, like it started with a Reggie Bush pushing Matt Leinart in the USC game. It was
legendary.
the legendary, the Bush
moment.
push, and everyone was just like, "What's a Bush push?" I'm like, "That's what it's called." And they're like, "Oh, maybe it's the tush push or the brotherly shove." Screw the brotherly shove.
I think
Like,
we need to
stop
differentiate
it.
the way the Eagles do it from the way the Giants do it, though, because they're completely different plays. Because
Yeah.
one time it works every single time, and then the other time you injure two of your offensive linemen and you don't get the first down anyway.
No, I mean, I will say it is seeing other, like we've seen Baker Mayfield try it, we've seen, Josh Dobbs, we've seen a lot of other quarterbacks try it. No one is as good at it as the Eagles are with Jalen Hurts. It's really, they may have to make a rule in the NFL just because it is so effective for them.
I reckon they start doing it every play. Just do it every play.
how
You
far
get
you
3
go with
yards
it.
every single play. You got 4
take
chances.
football back to 1944.
Exactly. Let's
Yep.
do it. There's no
100%.
way anyone stops that.
That just tells me your following might be made up of like 13-year-olds, though. That's kind of what I got to take.
You know what?
Which is very shocking.
You'd be amazed. I mean, because I will tell you this. No, this is a true story. Like my wife is always constantly amazed. Is that when I'm out in public and that like I get it's a lot of times it is college kids, it's high school kids, younger kids. Like I also get the olders, old,
the Adam
but the olds,
Thielens.
the Adam Thielens.
There it is.
The Adam Thielens
comes up
come
to
to the
you.
world. Yeah, come up
I
and
saw
say
him come up
hi
to you in Arizona.
as well. But no, in all seriousness, my wife is consistently amazed at the youth of my fan base. So, which I am as well.
Just look at Connor and I.
Yeah, exactly. Look at us here.
I mean, look, welcome. Yeah, my children over here. But yes, so yeah, not just in real life, but also on social media. Puka Nacua played 100% of the snaps, guys, and 95% of the snaps for Cooper Kupp in his first game back. Both guys locked in as top 20 fantasy wide receivers moving forward. And the only issue on the Eagles, as good as the Eagles is moving on, Jalen Hurts had a Jalen Hurts type game. It was great to see the rushing over 70 yards. Props to Lawrence Jackson, who that was one of his best bets, I believe, on pregame, wasn't it? The Jalen Hurts rushing alternate line?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Correct.
The
Yeah,
alt line.
50 plus.
He had 50 plus on
and
the
he went
alt
over
line.
these. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to Lawrence Jackson. Great call. Our pickup line segment continues to
Yes.
crush. Both you and Lawrence's bets hit yesterday. The only concern here is DeVonta Smith, guys. Jay, this was not good.
It wasn't good. And you just think that he is the type of player who's at a level where he can't have these games. He's too good to be 1 for 6.
Not where he
but
was drafted.
The sneaky thing is
He's
is
wide
that
receiver 92 as we head into Monday Night Football.
it's not
Like
great.
outside the top 90.
The sneaky thing is that A.J. Brown is 4th in the league in receiving yards. Remember when the concern was about A.J. Brown and him not having a great start to the season? He's been a monster the past couple of weeks. And I do think just with the amount that they run the ball, it clearly looks like A.J. Brown is 1 and DeVonta Smith is 2. And then if there are going to be games where Dallas Goedert does what he does, then there's just not enough passing to go around.
He's had under 50 receiving yards in 3 of 5 games this season, below a 15% target share in 2 of the last 3 games. 3 games already with 5 or fewer targets. He only had 4 of those such games last year. Look, Dallas Goedert went off in this game as well, so I'm not ready to hit the panic button just yet. He's too good, and this offense is too good, and we've seen it successful. But it does feel like you've got 3 alphas in Smith, Brown, and Goedert, and one of them is going to be the odd man out in every game. There's just not enough passing volume in this game, in this offense to go around, and it feels like more often than not Smith is out. To me, I'm not, quote, selling low because I don't think you're going to be able – I mean, again, he's wide receiver 92 this week, right? He's had, again, under 50 receiving yards in 3 of 5 games this season. They play the Jets next week, which also you don't love. They're on the road at the Jets. But I guess what I would say is like, I'm not selling low. I think your best bet here is just to sort of stay put, because you're not going to get the potential value out of him. And I do think better days are ahead. They have to be. He's too good and they're too good.
Agreed.
Let's jump into Bengals Cardinals here, and Jamar Chase. We heard him last week. We've seen the frustration, but after this game where he catches 15 to 19 targets for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns, a different Jamar Chase. Let's look at Week 4 Chase versus Week 5 Chase.
In 4 games this season, do you feel like you've had less time to get open and create space for yourself?
Nah, I'm open. I'm always open. Excuse my profanity. I'm sorry. 7-11. That's all I got to say, brother.
You heard the man.
Yeah.
7-11.
He's always open.
He even posted
Yeah.
a 7-11 in honor of him being always open.
Let's get my guy an endorsement deal. Come on now. Where we going? Listen, and to be clear, it doesn't have to be 7-Eleven. It could be 24-hour fitness.
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
Right? There's a lot of different, it
A
could
diner.
be IHOP.
Yeah, an IHOP,
Denny's.
yes, there
How
you
about
go.
where's Denny's? I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of businesses
options
that,
here.
right, how about an
Yeah.
airport? I'm just saying there's a lot of different places that are open 24 hours. This is one
Jamar
of
Chase,
them.
brought to you by LaGuardia Airport.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah. Listen, he is always open. I'm representing ProudFantasyLife.com investor, by the way, Jamar Chase. Monster game here. I don't know that there's anything really to say. 32% target share, by the way, in 3 straight games. Again, like we expected a massive target share with no T. Higgins here, and it was obviously a very good matchup. But look at their upcoming schedule. Seattle, bye. At San Francisco, you don't love that. Home to Buffalo, home to Houston. So next week against Seattle should be good. He's always open. There's not really anything to talk about here other than just, listen, hopefully you were patient with Jamar Chase, and it paid off because he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and one of the best wide receivers in fantasy, and he won you your week this week.
Yep. Second in the league in targets, second in receptions, both as prophesized preseason, second to Puka Nacua in both of those categories. I think the biggest...
Is that me or Jamar Chase? Oh, that is Jamar Chase. Okay, I can confirm. Sorry, I thought this might have been my high school footage for a second, but nope.
Boy.
Nope, this is actually Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow looked good, Connor.
He looked healthy.
I
That's
think
the most important thing. Looked a little more spry in this game on the calf.
To me, the most important play of this game, randomly, Joe Burrow had a 10-yard scramble where he was running properly.
Yes.
There was no limp, nothing. They needed the first down signal afterwards. He was back. He just looks healthy. What he got into that throw, that deep one to Chase, he looks like he's 100% now.
He's now had 40 or more pass attempts in 3 of the last 4 games. The concerns that maybe they would go more run-heavy given the calf injury hasn't proved itself. It hasn't been pretty, obviously, up until this game, but it's nice to see Joe Burrow doing Joe Burrow type things. So
still unsure what the hell happened in that Tennessee game. I still don't understand how he scored 3 points.
It's super weird, obviously, as well. But yeah, I mean, Bengals are back, baby. The Bengals are back.
One note.
By the way, also, I just want to mention this too, just real quickly while we're just talking about this game. Incredibly frustrating if you have Joe Mixon on your team. Like, they gave him the ball like on the 1-yard line,
At 25
3
carries.
different times, like, and he couldn't get into the end zone. Like, it's like from 1 yard out, you're like, oh, just fall in, just fall into the end zone, and they couldn't. I got a feeling he'll be highlighting Ian Harditz's sheesh report this week. But anyway, very upsetting.
One note for Arizona in this game, we said it at the notable injuries at the top. James Conner gets hurt with a knee injury. His head coach, Jonathan Gannon, said after the game he's feeling okay. On that long run, he might have gotten his foot stuck in the ground. So it was a first-half injury. He did not return to the game. We'll keep an eye on James Conner's status throughout the week.
Yeah, we'll talk about this more tomorrow as we get more updates on James Conner. Amari DiMiccardo played 100% of the snaps following James Conner's injury. By the way, shout out to Michael Smith. This is the kind of player that Michael Smith loves on Fantasy Football Pregame. He talks about all these
Keaton
random...
Mitchell.
Yeah, exactly. But Keontae Ingram has normally been the backup, but he's been inactive the last 2 weeks. They've used Rondell Moore in the backfield a little bit. I've seen other people, Evan Silva being one of them, suggest that Rondell Moore could be Austin Eckler-ish. Could you see that, or is he too small to be an NFL running back, Rondell Moore?
You're not going to run him like that. But when you look at what he did at Purdue, he was so effective with the ball in his hands, and that's what they tried to do with him as a wide receiver. Everything was behind the line of scrimmage. So I think there's creative ways to get him pitches and dump passes in the flats. Running between the tackles, he's pound for pound one of the strongest players in the league.
They've legit used him in the backfield the last 2 weeks, handing the ball off to him. Right? I mean,
I think
as
it's a better
running
fit
back.
than wide receiver for him. I just wonder what the volume ceiling is.
Yeah.
I guess is my big
they're 1-4. Let's get weird in Arizona. Why not? Just try it. Try Rondale Moore at running back.
I've dated some girls from Arizona. They're not scared to get weird in that state. I'm just gonna let you know that. I'm just gonna let you know that.
Oh man, they do call Tempe the Miami of the desert. So. All right, I guess we can go to Tennessee.
If you're young, I'll just say this: if you're young and single, get yourself to Arizona.
There you go.
All right, look.
Tough segue to Zack Moss.
It'll probably be more of a committee. Is my guess is that if Connor were to miss some time.
Okay.
All right, Titans, Colts. Listen, Jonathan Taylor gets the big extension. Everybody celebrates. Everyone's happy. Matthew, you kind of warned everybody throughout the week. Let's temper expectations and don't cut Zack Moss. Don't move on from Zack Moss. And Jay, Zack Moss, a smooth 23 carries for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also added in 2 catches for 30 yards in this game.
Yeah, did they give the right man $26.5 million guaranteed? Because Zack Moss looked like the better running back out there. To be fair, first game back for JT, we expected that there would be rust, there would be a pitch count, and so it was. But, I mean, Zack Moss is just playing so well. I mean, here's the thing, is that if Jonathan Taylor wasn't back, Zack Moss would be in the running to win the rushing title. Like, he's been that kind of player so far, and I think he has played so well that they're just going to have to keep on giving him carries, even as JT gets back up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, we knew he would be on a snap count. I think what we said on pregame is ideally you're not doing anything with Jonathan Taylor, that it's a tough matchup. Not for Zack Moss, but it was a tough matchup, and we expected a limited workload. He ultimately ends up playing only 10 snaps. I think part of that is because it was his first game back, and part of it because Zack Moss was running hot.
Yeah.
Like, give credit where credit's due.
How weird it is that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase couldn't do anything against the Titans secondary, but Zack Moss can gash them on the ground against the best run defense in football for 23 for 165.
It is this league, right? Any given Sunday. What will be interesting, though, is I think 2 things. Number one is right. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor's production is going to increase as the weeks go on. But Zack Moss has played well enough that he's not going to be completely disappeared. I don't think Jonathan Taylor, as weird as this sounds, I know he just got paid, and I know he's awesome, and we love him. He's a friend of the podcast. He's been on this show. But as weird as it sounds, I don't think Jonathan Taylor gets Zack Moss's workload, guys. Like, Zack Moss has run too good. Like, I think ultimately it's probably 65-35, 70-30, Jonathan Taylor to Zack Moss, but Zack Moss is going to play enough that I think it's going to be annoying to the people that have Jonathan Taylor on their team. One thing that is a positive, to the extent that any such injury is, and we'll talk about Anthony Richardson here in a second, but he left this game with an injury. We're going to update that in a minute. But Gardner Minshew, obviously, it looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback here for a little bit. In the 3 games in which Gardner Minshew has played, the Colts have averaged 30 or more running back rushes a game. So my expectation here is that, like, without Anthony Richardson, this is a team that wants to run, and so without, and Gardner Minshew's mobile, but he ain't Anthony Richardson. Right. So I think you will see enough volume, basically. Jonathan Taylor, ultimately, when fully healthy, I think Zack Moss will be a touchdown-dependent flex, and obviously Jonathan Taylor will be like kind of a top 15, somewhere in that 10 to 15 range. Whereas if Moss were out, he'd be a top 10 guy for me.
Yeah, it'll flip at some point. I mean, next week you might even prefer Moss while Taylor still gets up to speed.
Yes.
2 weeks from now, you probably start to prefer Taylor. Maybe that's the inflection point at which it flips. The other sneaky thing here is that the Colts won the game and they're 3-2 and tied for first place in the AFC South. So and they've got an easy schedule the rest of the way. So this is a team that I think is going to be in a lot of games and is going to be playing to make the playoffs and putting a lot of miles on these running backs.
You know, it's interesting, and I bet what are the when we do our future segment, but this will be interesting, what the Colts odds are to win this division, which I bet go down if Richardson's going to miss a month. Yeah. But Gardner Minshew's fine.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's that big of a down. I don't
Yeah.
think it's that big of a drop off. Exactly.
They lose some ceiling because Richardson just has more upside, but in terms of week to week, I don't think it changes much. And looking now at the odds on DraftKings, the Colts are plus 400 to win the division, which seems a little bit big to me.
Yeah.
The Jags are the best team in that division, but they got a much harder first place schedule.
The game is at Jacksonville next week. Colts at the Jags, so that will do a lot to determine the future of this division. Anthony Richardson, though, Connor, this was tough.
It is tough because now this is the second injury of his young career. And, you know, I obviously had the concussion. Now he has the AC joint. He's taking hits. He's taking a lot of hits. He's taking big hits. And we knew that's going to be part of his game. I mean, the dude is about 6'5", 240-plus pounds.
Yeah.
But this is the nature of when you have a running quarterback and that second defender, you know, gets the ball. It's simple as that. And this was a tough scene for Richardson. The explosive playability that he brings to the Colts offense is what they'll be missing. I don't know if Gardner Minshew brings that ability. So this is maybe a pain tolerance issue a week or two from now, and we'll see how much they rush him back. You got to be delicate. This is your franchise quarterback. Use the top 5 pick on. And I think the Colts will be smart and very, very careful.
You see this tweet right here from NFL Network. It says, sources, #Colts starting quarterback Anthony Richardson received an initial diagnosis of a grade 3 AC joint sprain, which would mean he'd miss a month or more. He has an MRI this morning to confirm. Either way, it's likely Gardner Minshew next week and moving forward. I saw other reports out there on Twitter saying that he wanted to get multiple opinions on his shoulder, but certainly sounds like the positives are, it doesn't sound like it's season ending, but it is his right shoulder, it is his throwing shoulder, so it does seem like it's unlikely that he starts this weekend against the Jaguars.
Yeah, particularly with that grade 3 potential diagnosis. I mean, their bye week isn't for another 5 weeks.
Right.
So he may be, I mean, that would probably be the worst case scenario.
Yeah, put him on short-term IR.
Gardner Minshew revenge game against the Jags.
That's right.
Let's go.
That's right.
#revenge game.
Gardner
Narrative
will have them ready to
Street.
play.
Gardner Minshew coming back. Yes. Oh my goodness.
If Nathaniel Hackett can have a revenge game,
Yes,
then
Gardner
Minshew can too.
Anyone can have a revenge
Definitely
game.
gets one.
Absolutely.
Chiefs at Vikings.
Anyway, get better soon, Anthony.
Yes.
We miss you.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on his injury status going forward. Chiefs at Vikings in a close one here, guys. Jordan Addison with the big day. Caught 6 of his 9 targets for 64 yards with the touchdown, of course. And the bigger story on the wide receiver front here, Matthew, is Justin Jefferson. While he only caught 3 of his 6 targets for 28 yards, he leaves in the fourth quarter with a hamstring injury that there's just not a lot of clarity on right now.
None whatsoever. Head coach Kevin O'Connell after the game saying, quote, "It's still very early to know the extent of Jefferson's hamstring injury. It was tough on him. He's the ultimate competitor." But here's the key of that quote, right? Still very early, sure, to know the extent of Jefferson's hamstring injury. Wait. Oh, so he does have a hamstring injury. I mean, like, to me, that's what I took away is it's like, because he came up, could it be cramping?
Yeah.
Could it no. He's a speed wide receiver with a hamstring injury. And whatever it is, it's not good.
Yeah. So there were two red flags for me. One, the fact that Kevin O'Connell talked about consoling Justin Jefferson after the game. You don't console someone over a little tweak. Secondly, the fact that he wasn't out there for the Hail Mary play, which was a fair way after he'd been injured initially. That's another red flag that he couldn't jog down the field to try and get open for Hail Mary. So I would expect Jefferson's probably going to miss some time. The other tough thing for the Vikings is their bye week isn't until week 13. Yeah. So there's no respite coming up there. So I'd expect Jefferson to miss a bit of time, in which case Jordan Addison will be the beneficiary.
Yeah, I mean, what you can only hope, though, is that he's back in 2 weeks. So they're at Chicago this week. You certainly like that secondary, to go against that secondary if you have a Vikings player. But then they're home to the Niners. You don't love that. At Green Bay and then at Atlanta. So it gets a little bit tougher here the next four weeks, other than the game next week against the Bears. But to your point, yes, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. But certainly, Jordan in the short term, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, in that order for me, take a bump up in terms of the target share. TJ Hawkinson always going to be a part of it, especially because, Connor, it doesn't seem like this team can run the ball.
No, they can't. And you saw that with Alexander Madison. Only 8 carries.
Yeah.
I mean, they're constantly playing in a throw script too, which doesn't help, but they really are an efficient running team. I mean, you see the 10 total touches for Alexander Madison, 7 touches for Cam Akers. Neither guy got anything going. Obviously Madison gets the touchdown, which spares him from a dreadful fantasy day, and we've just seen too many of those. But in terms of the down-by-down efficiency, it's not there for this group.
It isn't. And look, last week, Madison had 17 carries to Cam Akers, 5 carries. This week, Madison 8 carries, Akers 5 carries again. So that is, small sample, but trending towards Akers. And just Madison hasn't taken his opportunities. He had the fumble issue. He's had bad games. I would expect at some point this become Akers.
I'll tell you this isn't something that shows up in the box score as well, but I just remember this play vividly. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was like a key, I want to say it was a second or third down, but they were trying to drive. They were down against Kansas City, and I think it might have been a third down. But it's either second or third down. But the point is that Madison was open in the flat for just a simple little touch pass. It was a really well-designed play. They let everyone kind of rush in, and so Cousins just floats it over there, hits him in the hands, and if he catches it, he runs for a first down. It's a really well-designed play, and he drops it. Yeah. Just like just a play that a professional running back needs to make, and he didn't. And so again, it just goes to sort of the focus issues that we've seen from Madison in terms of whether, to your point about just the fumbles and the drops, and it just. Again, they traded for Cam Akers, a guy they know for a reason. It's a short week. We will see what happens against the Bears. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. But listen, you're nervous. You were nervous about Alexander Mattison early in the year. You're nervous when they drafted Cam Akers. You were thinking, okay, maybe he's held it up a little bit last week, but I think you can be back to being nervous about Cam Akers.
Be nervous.
Yes, be very afraid.
I want out of the Alexander Mattison business.
Afraid.
If I had Alexander Mattison, I would want out of the business. And, hey, he scored a touchdown. He played a lot of the snaps. I want out of the Alexander Madison business if I can get reasonable value.
On the other side of this one, Travis Kelce with the big day, 10 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. He also had the ankle injury right before halftime. Yeah. He returns in the second half. A bit of a surprise here, Jay, because it looked like it looked really bad for Kelce.
Just the Twitter doctors.
They were out and furious.
Achilles.
They basically wrote the man an obituary.
Commentary wasn't great either in the game itself, where everyone because the way Kelce went down, where he just kind of went limp. But it's like, all right,
non-contact injury.
It's
always scary.
Turf.
Yeah. But when you look at it, it didn't look that bad in real time, and he was walking around, and it seems like it's just a low ankle sprain.
Ankle.
Yes.
Yeah, he twisted
Still
the ankle.
happens.
Yeah,
So,
it's not a high ankle sprain. It looks like a low one. Obviously, he came back, he played, he caught the touchdown. Two things. I'm going to go on a very slight, quick mini rant here, Stephen. Don't worry. But I'm just
be very afraid.
No, I want to give a shout out to my friend and my former colleague, Stefania Bell, who does such a great job. And if you ever follow her on Twitter, and I highly encourage you to follow Stefania, but she's very well sourced, very well versed, and there are a few people on Twitter that I think do a really good job in terms of medical information. But the most of them are like, this looks like he's out, and you're just like, stop it. Stop it. What are you doing? Like, you don't have inside sources on the team. You don't know. Every patient is different. Every athlete responds to treatment differently. Every injury is differently. A high ankle sprain on you is very different than a high ankle sprain on me. Again, me being a bastion of health and you yes. barely waddling in here. But I'm just saying the fact is that different injuries. Different injuries affect players differently and exactly where it is. And until you examine that player, you won't know. And again, even if it was in the exact same place, an injury that happens to Saquon Barkley is different than an injury that happens to James Conner. Like, it just is.
Just like what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Right.
He was done. He was done for all money and then had the greatest second half anyone's ever had.
That's my point. And so I get these people are trying to get engagement, but I would just ask anyone that is a reasonable fantasy manager, don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Don't listen. Don't listen to them. It's all speculation and it's all done for clicks, and it drives me crazy. And there's unfortunately very few of them that are very good at what they do. Stefania Bell being one of them.
Yeah. So with this game, Kelce comes back. He's a monster. It seems like he'll probably be okay for Thursday, given the way that he closed the game. Don't have 100% confirmation on that, but no long-term concerns about Travis Kelce at this stage. To me, the takeaway
I will say though, had it been a serious injury, the Swifties, much like the BTS Army, the Swifties would have there would have been grass in every stadium next week. There would have been grass in every single stadium next week. That's the most powerful voting block in all of America.
Yes,
Make no mistake.
true.
Yes, it's the sleeping giant.
Yes.
I think the big takeaway again, though, is that 10 Kansas City players had receptions. Was it 11 or what?
It's just where we're at.
It's just such a democratic offense outside of Kelce. Isaiah Pacheco gets 16 carries again, gets in the end zone, has a fine day, but there's just no receiver that you want outside of potentially Rashee Rice.
Thank you very much. Scored a touchdown. That was my bold prediction on Fantasy Football Pregame, is that he would get into the end zone. I think he was third on the team in targets. Rashee Rice remains a priority stash for me on this Chiefs offense. Let's move on, though.
Yeah, our final game, Sunday Night
Football.
Football.
Deglaying everything.
I want us to go. I'm
getting
back.
off track.
I'm not here on Sundays. I like you showing up and ruining the show.
Yeah.
That's why I arrived. All right, Cowboys, 49ers. This one, I wouldn't say didn't live up to the hype. It's just incredible how much of a powerhouse the Niners offense is right now. And we had the classic Big George Kittle game. We're good for one of these, I feel like, every now and then. He catches three of his 4 targets, 6-7 yards. But here's the thing, guys. All 3 were touchdowns in a game that Brock Purdy looked absolutely surgical, Jay.
He did. Do you believe now, Matthew, in Brock Purdy MVP? I was laughed off the set, but 25-1, pointing him out. He's now plus 700 and a top 3 favorite with DraftKings. And I think he was the story here. He was a 10 out of 10 against a pretty good Dallas defense. George Kittle, the main beneficiary. Well, you didn't like Purdy's performance?
I thought Purdy was amazing. I don't like the bet, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that while he probably might be deserving, they're the best team in the NFL. The Niners are the best team in the NFL. My argument is that he does not, rightfully or wrongfully, My feeling is that the credit will go to Kyle Shanahan. He's a system quarterback. I mean, again, the more performances like this, you gotta like. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care what system you put Desmond Ridder in. Like, that ain't happening, right? Whatever. Pick your quarterback that you don't like. But I just feels like Chris McCaffrey has a better chance than Brock Purdy. I know MVP's a quarterback award.
I think last night was kind of an awakening in America around Brock Purdy, and the way that our friends Collinsworth and Tarico were talking about him on the broadcast, like he was this Russell Crowe in a beautiful mind type figure, the way he processes information, just his depth of target on these throws as well. Some of the throws to Ayuk, these are next level throws.
Oh, 100%.
And I think his pedigree can absolutely get to the level of Tua and Jalen Hurts. No one's going to think he's as good as Mahomes or Josh Allen, but they can think he's as good as Tua or Jalen Hurts, and those guys can absolutely win MVP as well.
Yeah, listen, he's an amazing story. He has played great. I mean, absolutely love the kid. There's no question about it. I agree with you. Some of the stuff to Ayuk, executed that play that they also ran in Detroit that we just showed, like the double flea flicker kind of thing, and they've run it in Iowa as well.
There's a copyright claim in civil court around that one, just immediately Kyle Shanahan lifting.
But I'm with you. I just don't think he, rightfully or wrongfully, I just don't think he wins the award, just because I think the narrative around him. But I'm with you. Like, certainly last night was a big step in the right direction. Through the first 5 weeks of the season, let's talk fantasy now for a second. He's the 7th best quarterback in fantasy. Like, again, we thought he was kind of a mid-tier QB2, but he's had 2 or more touchdown passes in 8 of his 10 career starts. And then this schedule, they're on the road at Cleveland. That'll be a test. Cleveland's a very good defense coming off of the bye. At Minnesota, home to Cincinnati, a bye at Jacksonville. Like, it's not a schedule that, other than Cleveland, scares you. I think that if you manage to pick up Brock Purdy in your league and you've got Purdy and call it Josh Allen, call it Mahomes, somebody else, like if you had him as your, quote, backup quarterback and you need help somewhere else, trade the bigger name guy. Yep. Trade a Tua, trade a Josh Allen or Herbert, because I think Brock Purdy is good enough to be a legit fantasy starting quarterback the rest of the way.
Yep. He's never lost a game that he's finished, Brock Purdy. It's unbelievable. He's 13-0. He is a monster. Not a monster as the Dallas offense right now. Dak Prescott, again, really struggles against the Niners defense. Obviously, probably a career low moment for him in the playoffs. Maybe the second worst moment of his career last night, as he's 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 14-24. Just couldn't get anything going. And to me, it's a concern because other quarterbacks have moved the ball a little bit against San Francisco. Think about Matthew Stafford diced them up for a half back in week 2. So this is a red flag for me on Dak. Really, everyone suffered in the offense, CD Lamb, but it really just starts with Dak and the game that he had.
I think for our fantasy purposes, it's very simple, though. You're still starting CD Lamb. You're still starting Tony Pollard. You're still probably starting Jake Ferguson, and that's about it, just because tight end's so bad. You can't be starting Dak anymore. They are playing the Chargers this week, which is a great matchup. So, again, for our purposes, it doesn't matter. Dak will be good enough to get the ball to the people that we care about, and you can't be using Dak as a fantasy quarterback. One last thing from this game for me is just, shout out to Christian McCaffrey, our one true God. Once again, death taxes Christian McCaffrey in the end zone, 14th straight week with a touchdown as well. It was hilarious because my Twitter feed was like every single account I follow, like, whoa, 14th straight touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. They all the same play, the same video over and over and over and over again. Every single sports book I follow, like, he cashes at whatever it was, whatever the odds were on their particular sports book, Of course, we're a DraftKings show, but I'm just saying, like, they're the only one I really follow. I've shadow banned the rest of them. But yeah,
the thing with McCaffrey is that was a bad game for Christian McCaffrey. That was like 2 out of 10 Christian McCaffrey games, 78 yards and a touchdown, still a monster.
Totally viable.
It's ridiculous. His 14 touchdown streak is the second longest NFL history.
It's good.
Yes, it is. That is good. Great analysis.
Yep.
You know what else is good? The toughest competition of the year is here. The biggest talents in men's rugby take the stage as 20 countries compete for 20 days of heart-pounding, hard-hitting action at the Rugby World Cup. Watch every match live on Peacock all the way through the final on October 28th, with games also available on CNBC. We're going to break. When we're back, Weekend Warriors.
Look at the muscles of the guy in green. Look at those muscles. Good Lord.
Rugby players are jacked.
He is.
Single back as Etienne gets the handoff, running over the left side, finds a hole at the 30. He's free at the 20. Left numbers to the 10. Breaks a tackle and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Jaguars.
Have a discussion of you not scoring when you were from 34 yards out. Should take more time off the clock.
I thought about it, but then I was like, nah. They've been having to
the crowd was going crazy all game, and I just wanted to go out there and try to put the game away. And our defense was playing really well, and I feel like it was the right thing to do at the time.
Travis Etienne saying, I played against myself in fantasy football today. Boy, tough moment for talk about a mix of emotions.
Can you imagine? What if he had taken the knee? What if he'd said, like, you know what, I did. I decided to take the knee because I'm playing against myself in fantasy today. But, like, hey, come on. Now, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, actually talked to Travis after the game and asked him about this. And Travis apparently said it was an auto draft situation, which is how he wound up. No, seriously, like for a reason he couldn't make the draft, so he ended up not having himself on his team. But come on, Travis, start working the phone lines. Hey, trade me to me. Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. Although shout out to whoever that was. Like, no, Travis, I'm gonna beat you with you. Shout out to whoever that dude is.
I hope it's a players league.
Yeah,
it's somebody else on like the Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
somebody like that. Yeah.
Anyway, Weekend Warriors, and that's exactly who we start here with, Jay. Travis Etienne, 26 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just a mammoth day for London's very own Travis Etienne.
London's very own Travis Etienne. He's quietly 5th in the NFL in rushing. He finishes as the #1 running back yesterday, and he's living up to all the expectation. And the sneaky thing is that he's getting targeted in the passing game. 21 targets, 18 receptions through 5 weeks, Connor, and that is really where his value is at the moment. And he really did ice the game. And he looks like a locked-in RB1 going forward. I know there were the concerns about Tank Bigsby, and that has manifested a little bit at the goal line, but he's providing so much value overall that he is clearly a locked-in RB1.
The usage has been there all season long, at least 23 touches now in 4 or 5 games. It just hadn't manifested itself in production the way it has right now. Colts, Saints, Steelers, bye are the next 4 for them. You don't love the Saints game, but the rest of it, yeah, locked in RB1 based on the usage and the offense finally coming around.
Yep. Guys, Robert Saleh said this week Breece Hall is officially off the pitch count, and it's nice when a coach actually lives up to his press conferences. 22 carries, 177 yards, and a touchdown. Breece also caught 3 passes, and this is the thing here for me, guys. Breece, weeks 1 to 4, 12 of his 209 total yards were before contact. Only 12. He's getting hit at the line of scrimmage constantly. Week 5, 115 of his 177 yards were before contact. This Jets run blocking unit found it against Denver like a lot of teams do, and that brought out the best version of a rumbling home run hitting Breece Hall.
To me, kind of the biggest takeaway from this was on this run, this touchdown run that went 72 yards, he hit a speed of 21.5 miles per hour. That is the fastest that anyone has run this year outside of a Miami Dolphin, and I'm just not including them because it's not fair.
In fairness, I have yet to be timed.
Yes,
that's fair.
I mean, you guys have seen me running out to the parking lot. It's pretty close. It's pretty close as I'm dodging security guards. I take a lot of office supplies, to be honest with you. 120 total yards in all 3 career games with 20 touches, so him getting more touches is good. This was the first game of the year with 15 or more touches, 25 in total for Breece Hall. We think he's back. Now, they got a tough matchup against Philadelphia and then the bye week, Connor, but what's the feeling around the Jets camp? Do they feel like, it's Denver, we should have beaten Denver? Or do they feel like, you know what, hey, Philadelphia's been on the brink of like sort of disaster. I feel like they've kind of narrowly escaped a few different games here, and maybe this Jets team, which all of a sudden is 2-3 and back in the thick of it, has a shot.
The Eagles, rightly so, are going to be a touchdown favorite in this game, but so were the Chiefs were more than that against the Jets. And I think the Jets, there was too much emotion in this game against the Broncos. It was very sloppy for the first 3 quarters because of the Hackett-Peyton Bowl.
Yeah.
But the Jets prepared and looked better against Kansas City, a game they lost. And I feel like that type of, workman preparation will take place against the Eagles again, where you have some kind of hope.
Little concern, Zach Wilson didn't look good. He looked back to old Zach Wilson. He made a few plays with his legs. He made some nice throws, but he was a lot closer to bad Zach than the Zach that we saw on Sunday Night Football, and I worry how that impacts Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall's running space. Not going to play the Denver defense every week.
Yeah, they're down Elijah Vera-Tucker against the Eagles, too. He's their best lineman. That's
Correct.
Scary.
Yeah, that definitely does not help. But again, all Zach Wilson needs to do is just not lose them the game.
Yep.
Like again, with the training wheels off or the pitch count done for Breece Hall, they can just run the ball. They can be really, really run heavy. And they need to get Dalvin Cook and Michael Carter going. We saw Michael Carter actually get a little bit more run this past weekend as well. But like in a run heavy game that's what they need to do. They need to slow down the Eagles offense. We'll have all week to talk about that. But listen, going forward, I think Breece Hall is a borderline RB1 with this kind of usage, but certainly a top 15 guy the rest of the way.
Yep, and he has the upside to be the number 2 running back in fantasy the rest of the way behind Christian McCaffrey, I think. Like, why not? He's got that much talent.
I'm sorry. Have you not watched a Dolphins game this year?
Do you want to talk about Devon Achane?
I would like to talk about Devon.
He's got the potential.
DeVonta Achane, yes.
DeVonta Achane, 11 carries, 151 and a touchdown.
I mean,
he's
only
averaging
the greatest running back in fantasy football history.
He's averaging 12.1 yards per carry. So I believe the record is 5.5,
yeah, insanity.
which is insane. And
it just looks so easy.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't. To me, what it reminds me of, and this is a little niche, but remember when Colin Kaepernick ran for like 181 yards against the Packers in that playoff game? It's like, what sport is this? Like, this just looks different. And Achane is kind of, I mean, he's more graceful of a runner than Kaepernick's upright darting style, but he just looks so much faster than everyone, and he is so much faster than everyone. The only thing is, little ankle sprain, we'll see about that. And also, is he ever going to get 15, 16 carries a game, Matthew?
I have to.
He doesn't, like, you can't carry
He's not
the
gonna
ball.
keep running 12 yards a carry.
Wait, well, listen, here's the thing. Here's how football works. Is that when you take the ball on first down, like at your own 20, and then you score on that same play, there's no other downs to carry the ball. He can't get more carries because he keeps scoring. Damn it. Like, it's his fault that he can't get more carries. He keeps scoring every time he touches the ball. He's got 7 touchdowns in 3 games. Like, honestly, like, if at the end of the year you said, like, hey, here's this rookie running back that was part of a 3-man committee, and he finished with 518 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, you're like, that's a solid little year for a first-round running back in a 3-man committee. That's what he's done over the last 3 games.
What's the deal
518 yards and 7 touchdowns, Jay.
Yeah. How is he doing? Is this at all? Obviously, it's not sustainable. It's going to be 12 yards per carry. But based on what he did in college, can he be, an elite RB1 going forward?
And this offense is perfect for him. It's a perfect zone running offense. They create so much space. There's so much threat on the outside with the speed they have, and Tyreek and Waddle, that there's so much attention that way. And Achane is really fast. He's a tough runner. I mean, as an A&M fan, he was really underrated in college football somehow.
Gigamaggies, and like just in the SEC, like it wasn't just the big plays. It was also like he would get the tough yards. They had no problem running him off tackle on some teams with A&M that were not that good as well. 5 red zone touches a game over the last 3 games as well. So when they get in close, again, Mostert is still there. I mean, I think that's the other thing, is that Mostert is still usable as well. There's clearly a pecking order between Achane and then Mostert, but they're basically splitting the touches here. Mostert a little bit more involved in the passing game. Achane running the ball a little bit more. Both guys are awesome. Hats off to Mike McDaniel. This is just a thing of beauty. We are blessed to be able to watch this in the year 2023.
Tough loss for the Aggies. Probably shouldn't have kicked down the end against Alabama, but that's okay. How do we segue from Devon Achane to Adam Thielen?
I saved Adam Thielen for Barry because they have a lot in common.
We're both old.
Yeah,
we're both productive.
Yep.
We're both more productive than you think.
Yeah.
Both have a young fan base.
Yeah.
11 catches, over 100 yards, touchdown.
We both,
The volume for Thielen is this is it right here in the Panthers offense.
He's had at least 7 receptions in each of the past 4 games. He's averaging over 23 fantasy points per game. He's averaging 11 targets. He plays in the slot. It's clear that Bryce Young isn't comfortable going outside the numbers in a significant way. Like, there's a connection there. And so it's really just health. Can he stay healthy all year long, again, at his advanced age? It's a question that I get asked by NBC executives every single day as well. Who knows? I don't know. He's day-to-day. We're all day-to-day. But the fact is that as long as Adam Thielen's out there, he's going to continue to be like a top 15 fantasy wide receiver. He's going to get massive volume. It's it's not an offense that's going to be throwing a ton, and it's not an offense that's going to be in scoring position a lot, but he's playing the slot, which is his natural position, especially at this age. He's a veteran wide receiver who knows how to get open. And so at Miami, where you expect them to be throwing a lot, then they've got to bye, home to Houston, home to Indy. Not a bunch of, not defenses that scare you. So as long as he's healthy, again, he was my sell high candidate last week. I think he is still a sell high candidate. Yep. But I don't think this is a fluke as long as he's healthy.
Jay, Steelers-Ravens was an ugly game, but there was nothing ugly about George Pickens' performance. 6 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. This is the guy in the Steelers' pass game.
I have no idea how Pittsburgh won this game. It was absolutely insane.
Ravens gave it away.
I'll tell you exactly how. I'm just going to a quick impression. Who am I? I'm open. Sorry. I'm just sorry. That was every Baltimore.
Zay Flowers,
Rashad Bateman in the end zone. Yeah, every single Baltimore Ravens pass catcher. There you go. That was an impression of them. Thank you very much. And scene.
Yeah. Well,
I just please, hey, Steven, cut that clip, send it to the Emmys, if you will. Just that impression right there.
Yeah.
Just send it over to Saturday Night Live as well, maybe, just in terms of my sketch comedy chops.
I'm not sure if that was Matthew Barry or Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. Either
exactly.
way.
I'm Rashad Bateman. Hey, I'm opening the end zone. What hits me in the numbers? Drop.
Oh, boy. Well, George Pickens wasn't dropping those passes, Matthew, and he just continues to get insane target share. He's had 75-plus yards in 3 of the 4 games since Deontay Johnson went down. I don't trust this offense. I don't trust Kenny Pickett at all. He did not play well again, although, again, he makes the plays down the end. And George Pickens is just a locked-in starting wide receiver for the time being.
Tweet that I just saw here from at PFF Brad Spiegelberger over there at our friends at PFF. Lamar Jackson with an all-time letdown from his receiving core. Ravens credited with 7 drops, 3rd most since 2017, including 2 in the end zone. That Bateman one was brutal. And 2 more on throws, 20-plus yards or more downfield. Also, by the way, there was a play where Zay Jones was wide open, and that if Lamar and he slipped or fell down, Lamar was going to hit him in stride, probably would have been a touchdown as well. That doesn't show up in the box score. That's how the Steelers won this game, is that Lamar Jackson doesn't have anyone around him that can catch. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Sunday Scaries real quickly. But George Pickens, 22% target share now for 4 straight games. The Pickens breakout that we thought was going to happen is happening. It helps the fact, obviously, that Deontay Johnson is hurt, but he's the part of the passing game you can count on.
Our last one, Jay, Desmond Ridder, 28 of 37, 332 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for a touchdown and leads Atlanta to a thrilling win over Houston.
Yep, he looked good. Desmond Ridder, much maligned in this space, I think justifiably, but he showed a level of competence, and the fact that he was just able to get the ball to Kyle Pitts, most notably, and Drake London shows, I think, a ceiling for this offense that I didn't think they had before yesterday.
I'm not ready to bail on my Desmond Ridder hate just yet. But I will say this: this happened a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember this in fantasy football, where Ben Roethlisberger had these crazy, weird home road splits, where he was actually better on the road than he was. I'm sorry, he was much better at home than he was on the road, and that's Ritter's actually been pretty good at home this year and pretty brutal on the road as well. It's hilarious. It's the one week that Lawrence Jackson, who's been the biggest Desmond Ridder defender, he bailed on him on Sunday morning. Anyway, Desmond Ridder comes in with a big game and made Kyle Pitts a thing. We'll talk more about that over the rest of the week.
Sunday Scaries, we already talked about Lamar Jackson. Listen, 22 of 38 for 236 yards and 1 pick. But, Jay, the story with Lamar is that his guys are not helping him out as well.
They're not helping him out. The drops are insane. They should have won this game by 25 points, honestly. And he does throw the terrible pick. If that pass to Odell Beckham had just been incomplete instead of a pick, then they very likely win the game. But, look, I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson. Tough game. Wasn't helped out. Didn't make a great decision down the end, but he will be fine. He's Lamar Jackson.
You're still starting him, but I will say 0 touchdown passes now in 3 of 5 games this season. We were promised a high-flying Todd Monken offense, and it is, and it does look out of rhythm. And again, I think not a lot of the blame should be on Jackson, but still, come on now.
One that I'm concerned about is absolutely still Rhamondre Stevenson. This offense is putrid, 8 carries for 24 yards. The offensive line doesn't look good. Mac Jones looks even worse. Bailey Zappi had to play. I don't know how you could have any hope that there's a turnaround for Rhamondre Stevenson right now, Matthew.
The only hope is that they play the Raiders next week. You know what I mean? That'll be playing on a short week. But, yeah, the whole offense just looks broken. It's his 3rd straight game with under 8 fantasy points. He's in flex territory. He's a touchdown-dependent flex territory, and the way the Patriots offense is going, they ain't scoring a lot of touchdowns. So it's really upsetting. It's his first game with 0 receptions. We talked about his lack of passing game usage on pregame. It's why he made the hate list this week as well. He's just not being involved in the passing game, and that's bad for a guy like Rhamondre.
Jay, how about James Cook in London? 5 carries, -4 yards. I think the big thing that stands out to me, we're seeing a lot of Latavius Murray on the field as well.
Yeah, not ideal. And they were just having to throw the entire game as well. So I'd write this one off, but certainly concerned about Latavius Murray.
All right, our last one, Courtland Sutton. He gets blanked essentially against the Jets. Only caught 1 pass for 13 yards. The Sauce Gardner effect a little bit here.
Exactly. He was on the hate list for this reason. Again, just, Sauce Gardner, just how good this Jets defense is. I'm not worried about Courtland Sutton moving forward. They're going to have to throw against Kansas City. So, again, he's as good as that offense is, and that offense is middle of the pack.
All right, so we're going to take our last break here. When we're back, it's last call, Monday Night Football. We got best bets coming right up. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code BERRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. It's time for last call. Let's take a look at the most bet Monday Night Football props courtesy of our friends at DraftKings. You see Christian Watson receiving yards, the over set at 40.5. That's number one. Jordan Love rushing yards set at 13.5. The public is going over. Same could be said for Romeo Doubs receiving yards at 47.5. Jordan Love alternate pass yards, 200 plus. Christian Watson alternate receiving yards. All Packers offense here. Jay, do you have something different in mind than the public?
I have a variation on the public. I like Romeo Doubs over 47.5, but I'm going to take a home run swing for my best bet in honor of Penn State Blake and his Phillies playing tonight.
Sure.
I'm going to go Romeo Doubs 100 plus receiving yards at plus 750 on DraftKings. I just have a rule, generally, if you've had 25 targets the preceding 2 weeks, you can't be plus 750 to get 100 plus receiving yards. And I know Christian Watson will be more integrated, but Doubs is getting so many targets against the weak pass defense in Vegas that I think that he can go over 100.
I like that as well, and I'm also going on Romeo Doubs, who's had 5 end zone targets this season. That's tied for the third most. Raiders are tied for the most touchdowns allowed to opposing wide receivers. So Romeo Doubs, anytime touchdown, is at plus 220. So I like that as well. Give me the over on Jordan Love, 1.5 touchdown passes. It's just minus 110. Remember, he had 3 touchdown passes each of the first 2 games. Again, last 2 games he's been under that number, but against the Raiders in what should be a high-scoring game in a defense that doesn't really scare you, give me that. And then last one here for me, I'll take the over on Luke Musgrave receiving at 31.5 receiving yards. He's had at least 45 receiving yards in 2 of the 3 full games he's played. Remember last week he left with a concussion early, so I think Luke Musgrave, 10 days removed, should be fully healthy again. I'm expecting a lot from this Packers passing offense tonight.
Back to the well on Musgrave.
Back to the well on Musgrave.
Okay.
Guys, somebody has to care about the Raiders on this show. I got Max Crosby for half a sack. That's at minus 120.
You love your half sack
I do.
props.
I love my defensive props. And then Jacoby Myers, over 4.5 receptions. Jacoby Myers is
seems low.
It does seem low, and it's plus money, plus 105 at 4.5. So get that before it jumps up to 5.5. Jacoby Myers definitely featured in this offense, especially when Jimmy's there. So I think a lot of work for Jacoby Myers in this game.
Yeah, for Devontae Adams' revenge game. Anytime touchdown to Devontae Adams is just minus 115. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting as well. Listen, it's closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Head to Arizona for a good time if you want. Otherwise, we'll see you back here tomorrow. For Jay and Connor, I'm Matthew Berry. We'll see you. Good luck tonight. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.